roadmap for today. Think of it like an impact funnel. First up, education and accountability. Then, public tragedies. Third, extreme weather. And finally, regional unrest and politics. Basically, we're starting with massive national institutional stories and zooming all the way down to some really urgent regional developments. Section 1. Education and Institutional Accountability. Okay, let's dive into this. We have to talk about the massive NEET UG exam controversy that is absolutely gripping the nation's youth right now. Listen to the sheer weight of these words from the Supreme Court. They said, the real problem will not stop till there is actual accountability. Unless you identify the specific duty bearers, it will be difficult. Wow. I mean, the court is being incredibly stern here. They're calling out a severe lack of institutional memory and, frankly, glaring systemic failures within the National Testing Agency, or NTA. They hit the nail on the head. Unless we figure out exactly whose shoulders this rests on, these leaks are just going to keep happening. So, the highest court is officially stepping in to mandate systemic overhauls. And they explicitly acknowledge the deep trauma this whole mess has caused. I mean, think about the millions of students and families who poured years of their lives into this. Because of this massive fallout, a re-exam is set for June. And the next big court check-in? That's scheduled for September to see if these mandates are actually working out. So what's the NTA doing about it? Well, they've proposed some major structural changes to stop future leaks. The biggest game changer? Moving from traditional pen and paper to a computer-based test, a CBT, starting next year. For any physical papers, they're talking about storing them in completely isolated, insulated rooms, ramping up CCTV, and using dedicated nodal hubs. Basically, they are leaning heavily into digital and physical security to try and win back some trust. But, the NTA isn't the only educational body in the hot seat today. There is a huge political clash going on right now over the CBSE's on-screen marking contract, or OSM. On one side, the opposition is claiming that grading was completely compromised. They say the contract went to a company with a history of failures, and they want an independent probe right now. On the flip side, government bodies are holding their ground, stating that due process was absolutely 100% followed. It's a fierce debate over transparency for sure. Section 2, Public Tragedies and Safety. While institutional foundations are being tested in court, you gotta wonder, how are the physical foundations holding up across the country? Well, sadly, we have some pretty grim news there. Over in Hemipur, Uttar Pradesh, a severe storm led to an under-construction bridge collapsing right over the Betwa River. And it's just heartbreaking. Laborers working on the site tried to take shelter from the rain under this massive concrete slab. When the structure gave way, 6 workers tragically lost their lives and several others were injured. It's a stark, devastating reminder of the vulnerabilities in our infrastructure projects. And naturally, a tragedy of this magnitude triggers an immediate political response. Opposition leaders from the Samajwadi Party and the BSP are pointing fingers, accusing the government of project corruption and compromised standards. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has expressed deep grief and ordered immediate accelerated rescue operations, along with financial aid for the victims' families. 8. Just 8. It's a heavy, solemn number today. That is the number of lives lost in a devastating illicit liquor or hooch tragedy over in Maharashtra, specifically in the Hadapsar and Kalepadal areas of Pune. Here's what we know about the investigation so far. Authorities discovered that fake ethanol was mixed in completely without permission to create this lethal batch. 8 suspects have been detained or arrested already following overnight raids. Politically, it's causing massive friction. The opposition is demanding a high-level probe, blaming a breakdown in law and order. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has ordered coordinated, multi-department action to trace exactly where this ethanol came from and enforce strict crackdowns. Section 3, Extreme Weather and Climate. While the political heat rises over these local tragedies, let's pivot and look at the literal heat and weather patterns affecting the entire nation. Okay, so the Indian Meteorological Department just put out a monsoon forecast, and it's definitely concerning. At first, they predicted an early arrival and normal reservoir levels, but the revised reality? The arrival is severely delayed, stretching well into June, and our primary water reservoirs are now sitting below normal. Why? They're pointing to El Niño conditions and a lack of a positive Indian Ocean dipole. And to put that into perspective, this isn't just about needing an umbrella. This delay is triggering major fears about agricultural yields and water scarcity for farmers who rely entirely on these seasonal rains. And while we're all waiting for that rain, millions are just baking in a severe heat wave across north, west, and central India.
Places like Banda in UP and Delhi, they are seeing record-breaking, absolutely blistering highs. It is, without a doubt, a genuine public health emergency. Things have gotten so intense that the National Green Tribunal, the NGT, is actually stepping in. They aren't just treating this as a hot summer day, they're treating it as a systemic crisis. The NGT is demanding answers from the center in 8 different states, calling for state-specific strategies. They're heavily focused on protecting vulnerable folks in both rural and urban areas. They want real, structural adaptation plans, not just quick fixes.
Section 4. Regional Unrest and Politics. We're at the narrow end of our impact funnel now. Let's see how regional socio-political developments are shaping the national landscape just as much as the climate. And this brilliantly illustrates the wild contrasts in our daily news cycle. Look at this. On the exact same day, we're seeing severe grassroots unrest and heavy security in Manipur, operating right alongside high-level political maneuvering in Delhi, where Karnataka leaders Siddaramaiah and Rahul Gandhi are shaking hands. Let's unpack both of these. Starting with Manipur, specifically up in the Ukhrul district, things have escalated tragically. A goods truck driver was killed on National Highway 202, which is a vital lifeline for supplies. That's triggered highway blockades, cutting off essential goods like rice. On top of that, Naga groups are demanding the release of 6 hostages, including church leaders held by Kuki extremists. They're even threatening a total boycott of the state government if action isn't taken. It is an incredibly volatile, multi-layered crisis on the ground. Meanwhile, let's switch gears to Karnataka, where a totally different kind of tension is unfolding. We're seeing intense lobbying right now between the DK Shivakumar and Siddaramaiah factions. They are going back and forth over key cabinet allocations and leadership posts. Up in Delhi, the central leadership is trying to mediate this whole power-sharing structure to keep the new government stable. It's basically a high-stakes political chess match happening behind closed doors. So, what does this all mean when we step back and look at the whole board today? From the Supreme Court demanding massive institutional overhauls to tragic infrastructure failures, from a shifting climate bringing dangerous heat to deep regional instability and intense political negotiations. How are all these diverse moving pieces going to shape our nation's immediate future? It's a lot to wrap your head around, but understanding these connections is absolutely crucial. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on today's Explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.